evening. Welcome to the Gresham-Barlow Board of Education, January 8th regular board business meeting. Sean, would you mind leading us in the pledge of allegiance? Okay. All right. This evening we have present Chris Howlett, Chair, Lee Peterson, Director, David Rigatich, Director, Holly Riegelman, Director, Dr. Myra Gomez, Director, Dr. Sean Behrens, Director, and John Cook as his first meeting as interim superintendent tonight. So with that, we do have a quorum. And we do have two additions that we're going to make to the agenda. One of them is to add vice chair election and also to post the vacant position zone 2, which was previously held by Kathy Keepley. This would be added to action item K. Number 2 would be the vice chair, and number 3 would be the position posting. So if there is, let's see. Sarah, I don't add things very often. Do I need a motion to do that or just do it? We just be part of how you approve the agenda. Then we show those things.
So
All right, so we'll
move to move the agenda with the addition of item K2, vice chair, addition K3.
So any discussion about the agenda then? All right, and I don't think I had any notes about anything else that was coming off the agenda. I think we're all good. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. Yeah, we gotta get reacclimated to this. Reconocemos que la tierra donde está ubicado el distrito escolar Gresham-Barlow descansa sobre las tierras ancestrales y no se vive de Monoma, Pacamas, Tualatin, Calapria, Molala, Amas de Chinook y muchas otras tribus que establecieron sus hogares a lo largo del río de Colombia. También reconocemos las políticas sistémicas de genocidio, reubicación y asimilación que todavía afectan a muchas familias indígenas nativas americanas en la actualidad. Como pueblos invitados a estas tierras, respetamos el trabajo de las naciones, los líderes y las familias nativas y hacemos esfuerzos continuos para centrar el conocimiento, la creatividad, la resiliencia y resistencia indígena. Consideramos los numerosos legados de violencia, desplazamiento, migración y asentamientos que nos traen aquí hoy. We acknowledge the land where Gresham-Barlow School District is located rests on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Multnomah, Calumet, Clackamas, Tualatin, Calapooya, Molalla, the Chinook, and many other tribes with their homes along the Columbia River. We also acknowledge the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native American families today. As settlers and guests on this land, we respect the work of Native nations, leaders, and families, and make ongoing efforts to center Indigenous knowledge, creativity, resilience, and resistance. We consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that bring us here today. So what to say before we got started with all of this, keeping in mind positive energy towards the folks that are experiencing a very extreme fire danger right now in California. And also, item note, Happy New Year. It's 2025, we're here. And also at the end of this month, we have Chinese New Year, which is this year is the year of the snake. And I thought that was actually pretty good because the snake represents creative energy, renewal, and strategic planning. So happy New Year. Sarah, do we have any public comments this evening? I did not receive any before. Okay. All right, then we'll move on from that. It's two computers and two pieces of paper and everything else going on. All right, so next up is, sorry, consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that are voted on in one motion. Separate discussion is not considered on each item unless you want to pull one out from the consent agenda. Consent agenda includes minutes from the special work session on December 4th, minutes from the regular business meeting December 4th, minutes from the regular work session December 18th, monthly financial report as of November 30th, 2024, and personnel report employee contract. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as whole or any items that need to be removed?
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved by Holly, seconded by David to approve the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. We have recognitions. We're going to start this evening with the certification and recertification for National Board for Professional Teaching Standards. Presenter for that is Dr. Tracy Klinger.
Good evening, everybody. The board is asked to recognize Gresham-Barlow School District, a Gresham-Barlow School District teacher tonight who attained certification and recertification for their National Board for Professional Teaching Standards certification this year. As the board is aware, earning initial NBPTS, that's a new acronym, certification is rigorous and requires extensive documentation and assessment of one's teaching. The certification work requires the completion of comprehensive portfolios documenting their teaching pedagogy, plus the intense analysis of and reflection on their teaching practice. They must submit a portfolio with 3 entries, which demonstrate effective and reflective practices through video and written commentary that analyzes differentiated instructional choices. In addition to that, teachers must take a computer-based assessment to demonstrate understanding of content knowledge and pedagogical practices. These components of the certification process must provide sufficient evidence of how their practices meet national teaching standards and that their professional growth has focused on elevating student learning. The renewal process requires teachers to show that they have continued to grow professionally while substantially impacting student learning. In order to maintain their certification, teachers must submit 2 new components in their portfolio every 5 years. And it's a lot of work. It's perhaps the most powerful professional development experience available to teachers who are interested in improving their teaching practice, and certification is available to teachers with 3 or more years of teaching experience. So tonight we are here to honor Alicia Phillips from Powell Valley Elementary School. She is in her 2nd year at Powell Valley. And when asked how she believed the National Board certification positively impacts students, this is what she said. Being board certified affects my students because it shows that I am a reflective teacher. I strive to do what is best for my students and teach them in a way that works for them. After each lesson, I think about what went well and what needs to change for the next lesson in order to meet the needs of my students. I feel like being National Board certified is a great recognition for all of the hard work I and my other amazing NBCTs out there do for our students and communities. So would you please join me in showing some appreciation and congratulations to Alicia Phillips. We have one recognition that we'll postpone until next. It's going to change. Got it. So I just have, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
How many years has Gresham-Barlow been involved in doing this? And I think I know, but let's see if we could.
I feel I was gonna say 20-ish. Yeah.
And again, about how many teachers have received this? My number in my mind is like 45.
It seems like it changes, and we did have a big push where we had a lot of teachers certified, and work to get recertified is sometimes a step that people aren't always excited to make. And so it's a real accomplishment to come back and do it a second time.
Just remember when we first started doing it in particular, but doing it for a number of years, Gresham-Barlow had the greatest number of teachers who were pursuing and renewing. So congratulations. That was
We created a nice network of support for one another. So it's great that they support each other through it.
Next up is a report on our 2024 community donations for Gresham-Barlow students and families. Nancy Singletary.
Chair Howard and directors, thank you for allowing me to come and share this report with you this evening. I believe you have the report submitted in the agenda, so I'll kind of highlight the most important. The Gresham-Barlow community has once again come together to support our students and families this holiday season. Several faith communities adopted local schools, providing gifts and meal assistance, and the following schools received direct support. Grace Community Church adopted East Gresham Elementary and Hogan Cedars Elementary and held an event to celebrate those families. East Hill Church Family adopted North Gresham Elementary. Mountain View Christian Church supported Highland Elementary and Gresham Arthur Academy. Hall Elementary was supported by an individual grandmother, I believe, who rallied gifts from the community and also brought a tremendous number of food boxes to that building. East Hill Church hosted its Joy of Christmas event, which served 1,010 children who were referred through 35 organizations across the county. They supported their event with 4 languages, which was amazing. And they had 200 volunteers and raised $20,000 in community sponsorships. Offered about 62 bikes and trikes and wagons, and each registered child received a gift and a stocking, and food boxes were available and information about ongoing community resources. In total, that event served 490 East County students, including 106 families from Gresham-Barlow. In the joint effort, Mountain View Christian Church and the East County Elks, supported by Jamie Setta from Highland Elementary, served 82 students with holiday sponsorships. The Holiday Joy Box event, organized by Gresham-Barlow's federal programs, supported 26 McKinney-Vento students this season. This initiative is primarily supported by our classified and licensed staff at the district level. Although sponsorship was low this year, we were able to provide gift cards to students without a Joy Box sponsor. East Hill Church donated several gift cards left over from their event on Christmas Eve morning. Throughout the district, Gresham-Barlow staff generously sponsored students at the respective schools. Gifts and meal support were provided, and several families, students, and staff received assistance with utility payments to ensure they could keep their lights on this holiday season. Federal Programs is exploring options to allow staff and community members to make pre-tax financial contributions, allowing us to establish a flexible fund to meet the needs throughout the school year and not just at the holiday season. So if you'll indulge me just a minute longer, I wanted to share some numbers and statistics just really from the program, the federal programs, the families and the type of students that our program serves. So currently, I'm going to mention one other.
another donation partnership. Through our partnership with Rack Room Shoes at the Columbia Gorge outlets, 121 students have received new shoes this year so far. So that's a big win. As I mentioned, some just statistics and numbers. We currently have 431 students who are eligible for the McKinney-Vento Homeless Assistance Act. Pandemic, just for perspective, we had about 3% of our population. Last year, at the end of the year, we had 9% of our population eligible for that program. So we're roughly about 4%. Recent arrivals, students who are new to U.S. schools in the past 540 school days, we currently have 570 students, 72 students. And then we have 94 students in our migrant education program through MESD. And lastly, we have 91 students in state custody through the foster care program. So those are all students that our department, federal programs serves throughout the year. Have any questions? Any questions for Nancy? Thank you. Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Next up, we have our update from superintendent and district leadership. So, Superintendent, Mr. Craig.
Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the Cabinet and Instructional Leadership Team, welcome back to our students, family, staff, after what we hope was a joyful and respite break. The start of the new year brings opportunities to reflect on our successes, address challenges, and set new goals. There is much to be thankful for sure, including a new collective bargaining agreement with the GBA, which we'll have more of later. There is also a great deal to be reflected on so that we can continue to grow and improve. Together, we will strive to make 2025 a year of meaningful progress for our schools and our students. A special thanks goes to our staff, and our teachers, and our families for their dedication and hard work this last fall to start the year, because we've had a very successful start, and in preparing for the new year ahead. Let's ensure our students thrive and are noticed and appreciated. So heads up, coming month, the Cabinet Instructional Leadership Team will work on several key items, including monitoring the long session of the Oregon Legislature and the implications for our budget. Team will focus on academic outcomes, safety summit plan and follow-up, and finalizing the long-range facility plan, to name a few. This spring, we encourage the community to stay involved and engaged, especially regarding the legislative session. That will be very important for us. I would be remiss if I didn't have the next couple of statements for all of you. It's School Board Appreciation Month nationwide. This month, the GBSD proudly joins communities nationwide in celebrating this recognition. Tonight is our opportunity to express our deepest gratitude to our dedicated school board members for their tireless efforts, unwavering commitment, and leadership. Serve as champions for our students and community, selflessly volunteering their time to ensure every student has access to the resources, opportunities, and support they need to thrive. We each regularly confront complex challenges, more than people understand on a regular basis, today included. Navigate difficult decisions and situations, and advocate for the success of our students, staff, and schools, all while keeping the community's best interests at heart. And that was very evident today. Until you take on responsibility of public service, it's not possible to understand the commitment and dedication it takes to serve in roles like a school board director. There are many times, sometimes weekly, that your work can feel unappreciated and thankless, and you take this on quickly. Inspired by your passion and commitment to build a brighter future for all, your stewardship will have shaped policies, guided the budget, and supported initiatives that create safe, inclusive, and academically enriching environments for us. This month and every month, we thank each of you for your service, vision, and dedication. It does not go unnoticed, and we are truly grateful, sincerely, for all that you do for us and the community. No comments.
Thank you. Next up, we have updates from the board. And I think I'm going to start down there with Mr. Lukatich.
Honeydews, not a lot of stuff in the schools. My very first empty nester Christmas Eve as my boys were with their significant others. That was something new. But other than that, we had a great Christmas and spent a lot of time with family.
I'm going to disturb my my kids at home for the last year. Um, we had a busy holiday season, but a really fun one. We're in our household in full swing basketball, so we've been at the gym a lot. I think 5.5 hours yesterday at the gym. So we've been doing that a lot. I'm also attending the life skills. I think they're calling it New Year's dance. Yeah, New Year's dance on Friday, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure there's other things, but we are in the process of hiring the permanent superintendent, so that's coming up as on the list.
When was your last school dance? So December was really fun. I was able to attend the Hickory Middle School honors breakfast. So many kids who have a 3.0 or higher. So many kids. It was so much fun. It was so nice to see grandparents and aunts and uncles, not just moms and dads. So it was really nice to see entire families participating, and some of them were able to take their younger siblings, and so they were able to see themselves as role models to their younger generation, which is really exciting. Like Holly said, we're in the process of hiring a superintendent. We have interviews this Saturday. I also visited North Gresham and in Clear Creek also on a different day. At the honor roll breakfast and at North Gresham, I ran into former students, and it's always nice to see former students. But it's really nice to see that they have positive memories of me. So I wasn't as mean as I thought I was. Just feeling blessed to be able to serve my community and to be here with all of you. Thank you. Director Peterson.
Busy holiday season. I did in December get to go to a number of school music performances, both in Russell as well as the Barlow Joint Christmas Choir. I have historically missed that because of conditions here, but was very grateful to let me this last work session so I could attend that. And I just marvel at that, the talent and the greatness of our students. That was a concert. If you haven't been before, I will recommend it. It's an alumni concert, so they bring back, and it's a joint band and choir. So hundreds and hundreds of people. I think it was the biggest alumni coming back, going up, playing instruments, singing. It was really stirring experience for me. And then also to see Court Russell's band and choir, but specifically, I've got kids that I've coached over the years in sports who decided, you know, the sports up for me, and then to watch them absolutely on a stage musically. I just love how many opportunities are available to our kids in that experience. So, other than that, the work that Holly just described and keep us plenty busy.
I attended the Coastal Law Conference in June for a few days. I would recommend going to that at least once every few years. We can adjust our board schedule next year to make it more conducive for board members to go. Definitely, yeah, definitely worth a while going. I participated in the superintendent search. Unfortunately, I will not be able to do the interviews on Saturday because my nephew's going to be married, and so I'll be in Vegas on Saturday during the interviews. So, yeah. I'll also volunteer to do the interviews while I go celebrate my nephew getting married. Watched something near and dear to my heart, the middle school sports. You know,
participated in the middle school sports committee, and if that continues on and we're able to expand upon, and the idea being that it helps students succeed both academically and socially, and I'm seeing that in my own son. He was blessed enough to make the varsity team for West Orient, and it's that hook he needs to be successful in school right now. And so it's really great to see that happening. Also, I want to thank Coach Terry Summerfield for coming out of retirement and coaching this ragtag group of boys. They have a lot of energy, as he was telling me today before the game. But he's definitely made a big difference for those kids. Specifically, I was really blessed to see today the rivalry game between West Orient and Deep Creek Damascus. It's a thing, right? West Orient came on top, but it was a good thing to see. Also, I was able to see JV2 Barlow boys basketball last night compete against Jesuit, and then following watching the varsity compete against Jesuit in a very tough, aggressive game that I feel there was a lot of fouls on Jesuit that didn't get called. So maybe some punches were thrown that didn't get seen, thing, but Barlow came out on top, so it's great. Awesome. Zach? Turn it over.
A couple of things. First of all, I actually took a week off in December. I don't recall the last time I took a week off, did things with the family. I closed my store for a week. Yeah, exactly. And it was actually very, very nice. Did the Zoo Lights thing, did Cannon Beach, did just things, and then came back to a lot of stuff going on here. Yeah. Still very involved with the Oregon School Boards Association. We've been working on doing more policy work to kind of clean up our policy and bylaws. Working on a strategic planning meeting that's coming up in January. And applied, and in the first round on the National School Boards Association has an open position representing the Pacific region at the national level. So I submitted an application for that, and I'm waiting for the next round to see what we're going with that. We had a person that was on it that, because he was hired by his association, you can't be an employee of your association and sit on the NSBA board. So it's a position that opened up a little bit sooner than I was expecting, but I'll give it a go. And then I realize that it's January, but in my mind, I think January, the year's almost done. Is that the way teachers think? The year's almost done, it's January. But I do need to get out and do some of my visitations. So I've got some that I'm trying to get scheduled, and I'll get those booked in online. I know I have one coming up that I need to make sure I'm prepared for out at East Gresham, and I need to do a couple of more this year. So I'm looking forward to doing some of that. And then segue just a tiny bit. Tonight, we are also going to be celebrating our successful contract agreement with our licensed staff, and I was a member of that bargaining team and absolutely enjoyed the privilege of being able to be part of that team, the collaboration that we have with our licensed staff, with our district staff, with Angela, and with Tracy, and I should say Dr. Klinger and Dr. Freeman, but with Angela and Tracy and the rest of the team. I've always felt that as a board member, I represent our board very well, and I feel like I'm a part of the team. And I'm so excited that we have a successful bargaining that we are done with for 3 years, 2.5 years, whatever it is. And I know that we're going to have a little bit of treats with that. So I'm going to segue just a little bit into the Gresham-Barlow Education Association report. Have Angela speak a little bit as well. We've got the OSEA report. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Chair Howard. Good evening, members of the school board, interim superintendent Cook, cabinet members, and fellow GBA members and attendants, in person and online. My name is Eric Nywert. I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher at Morgan Russell Middle School, where I've had the privilege of teaching for nearly 30 years. Tonight, I'm speaking on behalf of the Gresham-Barlow Education Association as the bargaining chair for our association. First, I want to express My appreciation for the district's bargaining team, particularly Dr. Angie Freeman, but also Chair Howard, Dr. Klinger, and Mr. Blazak, who are all here in attendance, who also played a role in fostering a collaborative environment. Together, we address many of the challenges our members face, seeking solutions that work. The successful bargain, completed in a timely manner and timely and respectful manner, resulted in a compensation package that meets our members' needs and positions the district as competitive in attracting quality educators. Additionally, we found meaningful solutions around safety, empowering members at the building level to address behavior and safety issues effectively. Thank you for your efforts. However, I must share the members' disappointments with the district's team when the district's team chose not to engage with the association on a critical issue: class size and caseload. This issue profoundly impacts the health of our members, safety and learning of our students, and the overall quality of education we can provide. For instance, as an educator, it's incredibly challenging to meet the needs of 35 students with a variety of needs, a wide variety of languages, 44-minute class period. Quality of instruction inevitably suffers. Across the districts, my colleagues face extreme stress daily as they navigate behavior and safety concerns. At some of our more vulnerable schools, members are already considering not returning next year, some having tendered their resignations already. This level of stress is unsustainable, unhealthy, and deeply concerning. If we are to become a destination district that attracts educators and families alike, we must do better. We need meaningful action to address class size and caseload so that we can create a safe, supportive, and effective learning environment for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And so next we'll go on to the OSEA. I see that Eric is here this evening. Thank you, Chair Howard, board members, Superintendent Cook. It's nice to be here this evening. It's been a quiet month for OSEA with a short month and the holidays, and we did have our social, which was well attended. We had a really good time. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. I got a last minute call to babysit my grandson, so I missed it. Yeah. But we are looking forward to getting geared up for the rest of the school year, getting great again after being off for 2 weeks. We'd also like to acknowledge School Board Appreciation Month, and thank you so much for your service. We do appreciate everything that you do, and we know that you work behind the scenes that no one gets to see and how difficult that job is. And so we thank you very, very much for that. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you. So Dr. Freeman, before we go in our recess, which is the to have this, then we get to take a few minute break with Dr. Freeman. How did Freeman go? Oh, no. I haven't seen it in a while, but I am super excited for this unit. We started leadership and learning. We did that. We had a couple of months. For the district and what's best for kids. And the negotiation of contract is perfect, and I believe in 3 years we'll probably talk about contract. It's just last season. Sure, I think that we come to an agreement. Things get better. So just don't stop. Hold it up. I think we're going to continue to bring things up to you, and we'll do other to make sure that we have a contract that's good. So I super appreciate all of the GBA here.
And I say that from the bottom of my heart, I'm kind of miss things. So I did bring a little bit of gift for everyone, my team and your team. You will understand why this gift is significant because I think they were listening to you, quite frankly. It's possible to be part of the Jim John. Just to say thank you to just give you the names of the Awesome team, which I affectionately call the bar team. Your name? We've had Ryan Gonzalez, Tracy King, and Sean Stewart, but you were awesome close and you just really happy to have a board member and a bargaining team because you just know how it works. You were really, really sure. I think the process that you know, how you work, how it seems really, and then you know, just so that you can communicate more efficiently. And John Cook, communications, and Schmidt, who's no longer with us, but he started with us as well. And then there's Joy and John. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 10-minute recess, maybe 15 if it stretches a little bit. And I heard rumor of a picture, so I don't know if that's happening. We have our resident photographer here who can do pictures. So I don't know if we want to do that pre-cookie or post-cookie, but anyhow, go ahead and take a 15-minute break.
Gresham-Barlow Board of Education, January 8th board meeting. We took a brief recess and we're back now. Our next item is a presentation, Health and Safety Schools Plans. Sarah DuBois is the name on this one. Looks like she's going to come down here to the front and present for us. Thank you.
Evening, Chair Hallett and members of the board. I'm joined by a person you know well, our Director of Facilities, Terry Taylor. Director Taylor is actually going to be doing this presentation and providing you with the annual report on our Healthy and Safe Schools Plan. The purpose of this plan is to help our district communicate how we are addressing potential environmental hazards in our facilities. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that over to Director Taylor.
Thank you for the opportunity. First, I have to thank you for the introduction. I have to apologize. The links were not live in the documents I sent, and they are live now on the website. I did get a 2-minute tutorial how to update websites by Jade, so I'm going to give a shout out to Jade for helping me out. I did not have links to the documents in the for some of the documents updated, so you're going to see some of those from the past in the water, but the rest of the links are there. The plans live, the statements live, the IPM programs live, all of those are there live. We've changed, modified the schedule. We are referencing fiscal year in the document, and Sarah pointed out fiscal year, but there was only 1 year mentioned. So is it the first part of the fiscal year or the last part? So I cleaned that up. We do have to submit this to ODE for authorization to make sure that it clears their review. So we are in the midst of doing that right now. This is the, I will update the backside of the website so that it does produce that. But Healthy and Safe Schools, basically it's the schedule that we manage our lead testing of the water in the school, lead paint, when we do have projects with lead paint, radon, integrated pest management. I think Helen and Sarah presented in November about integrated pest management. And so those pieces all come into play here. The asbestos management plan comes into play. We do have an active asbestos management plan. We're actually one of the models in the state to be able to do that. But we had a lot of work last year in the kitchens. We didn't do much work in the kitchens on the bond, but that list there in the statement, it does list out the projects that we did do the asbestos in. So all of the hazardous materials and pieces that we do, and if we did get into any of those projects, they're listed there on the website. The radon then is a part that is new to any of the pieces that schools that are on the ground, and we are following a schedule on lead, radon, and those pieces, and they're in there now. Again, the documents that when you link into them on the web page, there are a few that are not live, but I'll get those when I get back to my office. Any questions about Healthy and Safe Schools?
Just a general question. I'm looking at the list, and I'm not sure if I'm looking at what I'm supposed to be looking at, but I'm looking probably ahead. Facilities, where it does include facilities where we have students, but we don't necessarily own those buildings. So we're required to at least go and review them because our students are there, but we're not obligated to do maintenance or upkeep.
That is correct, but we still have the safety concerns.
So are there any questions from the board at this point, or we're just going to keep presenting? Okay.
Basically, the report is itself. The only things that we do need to report are the plan and the statement. The plan is just updated with the schedule, and the statement is the activities that we've done. I presented those to you. The links now have been updated, so it's not exciting when we go and talk about the testing of those of the drinking fountains or the asbestos. We follow the HERA plan. So it really is to let you know that we've complied with the requirement of healthy and safe schools. And then we work with Brian French on that.
Dr. Riegelman?
Just a question about the lead water testing that lists all the schools on page 3 and then has the next scheduled test. It says each of those, or almost all of them, I guess, not every single one, is on a 6-year schedule, but some of them are past 6 years. Like Highland was last tested in 2016, but it's not scheduled until this year again. Is there a reason that we were?
6-year plan is there, and Brian French and I worked out that plan. They wouldn't allow us to do it. 6 years is a requirement, and then he broke our schools up because we're so large. So you don't use 8 years, but he did make us put a year in there of what we would do. So I can ask him if we can take that 6-year schedule out to make that read better. Okay. It just doesn't add up. You're right.
Yes. Thanks for that.
Any other questions from the board? Presentation. The next presentation is going to be equally wonderful. So next up on the agenda is the equity-driven multi-tiered systems of support, otherwise known as MTSS implementation update. We have presenter Michelle Cohen, and it looks like you have some guests with you as well.
Yes, I learned that idea.
Because yes. Like all things MTSS, it starts with a team. So we have a team here. All right. So this presentation will provide an overview of the Gresham-Barlow School District's ongoing efforts to support, to develop, staff develop equity-driven multi-tiered systems of supports in schools. And specific strategies and focus areas will also be shared. Glasses where it's not quite far enough. My personal issue. Okay, we got this right there. Thank you, Sarah. Right, just to make the connection to the board conditions, when we think about multi-tiered systems of support, it really touches all aspects of our school system. And so you can see with these priorities, there's something about our multi-tiered systems of support that touches everything. And so that's why you'll notice that there's connections across all of them. So today's presentation, good news is that I'm not going to talk that much. You're going to get to hear from people in the building, experts doing amazing work. And so that's why the team is here today. I'll share a little bit at the beginning with some updates and progress. And then really it's going to be the implementation stories from 2 different schools. From Gordon Russell, we have the principal, Aaron Volker, assistant principal, Ali Marks, and our student management specialist, Marcus Williams, and they'll be sharing. And then from Hollydale, we have Aaron Hansen, principal, who was a TOSA during the development of systems, and then I was the principal. And so she has a unique story about sustainability and during transitions in leadership. So that'll be fun to hear as well. So just a quick overview. I'm going to try to do this really fast. And the PowerPoint that you have has been some updates because we've all been adding more things because it's so hard to know what things you want to share. So the newest one will be added after the presentation here. But just to give you a little bit of an update about what we've been focusing on at each of the different levels. We begin using the language universal supports, additional supports, and intensified supports because we're really focusing on our system and how our system can adapt to support students. We've really been focusing on this tier 1 or universal MTSS leadership teams. Really, our teams are continuing to develop their fluency with using data, really answering the question, how well are our universal systems supporting our students' needs? And that's an ongoing question. It's ongoing work because as the needs of our students are evolving, we're continually wanting to evolve our systems to meet their needs. And so that's really where the work focuses. Again, data literacy, deepening our implementation of culture responsive PBIS. And then we really had a aligned effort on attendance across all tiers. We know that that's an area we've got to get kiddos here so that they're supporting. So those have really been sort of some broad themes. And I also want to say that
Every school is focusing on different parts and pieces because that's how the implementation flows, because every school is in a different place, depending on where they are. So these are just some real broad themes, but you'll see some of that show up in the presentations from the schools. In terms of additional supports, I'm continuing to use Panorama both for staff to have quick access to data to figure out how we can provide supports, and also for teams to be using the data. Continue to deepen the implementation of our elementary tiered reading model. We've also been really refining implementation of that tier 2 check-in, check-out system, its behavior support system, and then continuing to utilize our screening data to really think about how can we leverage our folks, particularly our engagement liaisons that are so focused on attendance work with families. How can we use that data and quickly figure out how can we prioritize and get kids connected to supports and be most efficient with that. And then, of course, our intensified supports, that infrastructure, really working through teaming, figuring out which teams do which pieces as students have more complex need. There's always lots of need. Seems like there's not quite enough people. So we're always looking for how do we get efficient? How do we get clean in our processes? Where are the places where we can improve communication, articulation? So lots of that work going on as well. I could go on for hours about this, but so. I wanted to share a little bit of data just in terms of when you think about implementing MTSS. Sometimes we're looking at student outcome data, but when you begin implementing large system changes, what we really have to focus on is what are those critical features we're implementing. So there's a lot of specific research around when you implement these critical features, then that leads you to these types of results. And so that's really where a big part of data that we collect as an MTSS team is really looking at where are we with implementing those evidence-based features that are part of effective school systems. And so we are just about to do our third year of using the SWIFT FIA. That's the one out of the University of Kansas. It's the third time. As of last year, we had already had a 6% increase in implementation of those features. And we have shared some of that with last year's presentation. The SWIFT FIA was in last year's presentation. And then to see more implementation this year, some areas that we have focused on. And then for our PBIS implementation, you can see that was one of the first ones that we really started collecting that data as we reopened schools after the pandemic. And now K-12, we're at 60% implementation of those features, and we continue to get stronger. Sometimes as teams learn more, they're like, oh, I thought we were 2 on that, but maybe now let's refine and do that. So always aiming for about 80%. 80% is considered for implementation with systems of measures like this. In terms of our additional supports, and then we're going to begin collecting data for tier 3 because as we implement MTSS, we're starting tier 1 and strengthening those systems because you can't do everything at once. So another highlight we wanted to share, and this came up in I think our last board work session, whatever the appreciation was, but question came up with the implementation of our new safety and discipline handbook in terms of documentation, teachers versus minors behavior. I was like, oh, here's a chance to share that data. So currently 61% of incidents that are documented by minors, which is great because the more information we have before behaviors escalate, the more we can instructional responses and corrective responses to those. And then our major incidents are 39%. So just a quick snapshot across the district, that's kind of how many majors versus minors, just to have that data. This last bit of data was in response to a question about how many students are getting supports. And it's a really fascinating question to try to answer because when we look at student outcome data, when we look at the distribution and we think about tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, you think, well, if we've got, say 60% of our students, their needs are met at tier 1, and then you've got, 30 or 40 others are the other tiers, that tells you about the need, doesn't tell you about what actions and what capacity of intervened for. And in a well-developed MTSS system, ideally your universal supports are effective for 80% of your students. And so that's sort of the and the mark that we're going after. We are not out there with outcomes. And when you think about, where are we, really intervening with how many percentage of kids, it's hard to measure because we're also at the same time developing our documentation systems. And so there is so much happening for kids, probably isn't written down. And then how do you capture that? How do you quantify that? some teacher who just says, hey, I noticed this kid needs this additional thing, I'm going to do that. Not be documented anywhere, but it is an additional support. And so a lot of this is the mindset for how we think about responding to students' needs. And I did my best in a couple hours to try to figure out what we have documented. You know, so this is about what we have documented. But if I was to say, based on my conversations, I'm guessing we're probably more universal, like 70%, additional about 20, and intensified about 10 in terms of what's happening for students. Because there's a lot of people that are really working hard to provide supports to kids across the system. So we're kind of in this development, and it's a little bit messy, and it'll probably never be perfectly clean, but we just continue to refine and get it better. So a little bit of background, probably more than you know, but there you go. So now to the fun part. I'm going to turn it over to Gordon Russell, who is going to share their amazing story as they've entered on this journey. Microphone two.
Board. It is a pleasure to see you all. The executive team at Gordon Russell Middle School is incredibly excited to share the systems that we built over the last few years and our journey to get to where we are now. So here we go. There's a little timeline. So I was able to join the Gordon Russell community about 4 years ago. And that was in 21-22. And when I came, we were just starting the work of identifying the specific needs of students. What are the best interventions or preventions we can put in place to be able to support students? We tried to approach it too much at a time. We were trying to bite off more than we can chew. And we learned in education that there are never enough adults or never enough support to meet every single individual student needs when you approach it. So the next year, 22-23, we started to separate out our systems and starting to look at individual indicators for student needs and be able to sort them and start to look at the picture. Are there common sets of needs that students have, and can we wrap whole group supports around students as opposed to individualized every time? And that was the first step we had to start considering separating red zone at that point in time, so we called it, from yellow zone. So the students that need the most intensified supports and the students that need just a little bit of additional supports. So the following school year, which was 23-24, was the year that Ali was able to join our team. And we really also had the opportunity to work with the SWIFT partnership, the SWIFT educational organizational system, that did a lot of empathy interviews with our community and helped us reflect on our systems and have a better equity lens in our approach. And we started adopting the language of intensified and additional systems and really looking at more data-driven, how are we identifying student needs and applying interventions that best meet those needs. And this year, I would say we refined it even more. We have a couple of teachers that have a release period. So there's time in the day for teachers to embed support for students to be able to do extra work, to small groups, to pull outs, so they receive information about which students have needs, and then they're able to meet those needs in real time during the school day when we have students available to us. So that really has made a big difference in our systems. We expanded our teams when we meet, how they meet, and how we track the data. And we are starting to see those systems starting to meet more student needs individually.
Marcus Williams. We're talking about our team structures because, as I view it, I think I can say this: this is the linchpin in the work that we do. I say that because if you look at the different levels, intensified support, additional support, and universal, each of those have a group of people that kind of communicate with one another. And so the supports don't work unless that line of communication is open and trustworthy. And I think the word that we like to use is we do things with fidelity and just making sure that the things we say we're going to do end up getting communicated to the team that offer that support. And so when you think about it from an intensified support standpoint, to kids that they're just going to need something specific, right? And so we meet 2 times a month. The idea is not just to meet and only think about the intensified student as much as it is how did the student progress to this point. And so the expectation is something has happened along the way, right? This kid, they've received universal supports. Maybe they didn't work. Then they progress to additional supports. And so the hope is that by the time they get to the intensified level, that we have an expectation that something has happened along the way. And I think the value that I see there is the adults on each team and the feedback from team to team that makes its way out to the teachers in our building. And it's kind of my specialty, I guess, is using Panorama and communicating with support staff that's not in that room. So every time something happens, every time there's a conversation, a meeting, talking to parents, that message, that note is noted somewhere so that the next professional behind me can see why this kid has escalated or what the things that are already done in place may be contributing to that bad day. So it's, you're not just looking at the student, you're looking at what's happened with that student before you have to respond to a lot of these things. Thinking about it from a universal standpoint, PBIS, you meet once a month. Again, thinking about it in terms of what happens in PBIS and where does that information go? That's what makes this work, right? It's not about me kind of having all that info in a silo and then wanting to be the superhero to try and go make these things work. It's including the adults who are in the classroom and making sure that they understand what's going on and what the ask is within our building. This quote, Ms. Alco from our Swiss schools, and we infuse our university supports with all the support we can muster, the very best for instruction, high quality resources, and engaging curriculum. We have fewer students who need extra. I think that's just what it really helps you understand what are we trying to do here. If we can do the bulk of our work for the bulk of our students, the understanding is that as the needs progress, we can trust that this kid has received something along the way that's beneficial, not only for him, but for students in that position. And then thinking about it from a prevention standpoint, for students, we've got rigorous and supportive instructions, established explicitly taught expectations, building for acknowledgement systems. That one right there is important to me because, again, we're talking now, how do we acknowledge the good and the things that are happening? We have our T-Bird system here, so that a kid does do something well, they receive a T-Bird award, but it's not the award. I think it's the work that Miss Allie has done, and giving the gifts that kids want. Still, right? So in years past, it kind of felt like maybe the win wasn't good enough, or the value wasn't there. So there was an intentional effort to really try and put things in our T-Bird store that would ask the kids to participate and earn those T-Birds a lot more. So yes, it is an acknowledgement system, but I think it's really paying attention to what's our building enjoy? What are the things that they value? What they work hard for? And kind of merging those two to make sure that they're interested in having that bright yellow sheet of paper. And then connected to that, I think is another piece that's new where our staff gets to participate in that as we reward our staff who actually hand out the most T-Birds. The name goes in a hat. There's a drawing. They can win Amazon gift card. So again, we're incentivizing the teachers to write more T-Birds and get more involved and see the difference because again, I'm out at recess. Hearing the kids and they're excited that Mr. Nyla gave me a T-Bird because now I can buy whatever the thing is that they want. And so you just start to see how it all trickles down and just matters more. And to me, when you're talking acknowledgement systems, that's the piece that I really value is not only the kids wanting the T-Birds, but the adults in the building wanting to participate and engage in that relationship so that sides see value in doing it. Last point there is consistent behavior response systems. For staff, we have frequent professional development opportunities and an adult TCL, school safety handbook, and habit instructional strategies. A meaningful acknowledgement systems, again, thinking about some of the stuff we do with the staff breakfast. Right? It's a big deal for us because we get a cook. I put my Santa hat on. It's not about the food. It's about the people. It's about hearing the chatter and the smiles and just the joy in the room and giving them a minute to just be recognized as people that are doing good and we want to serve and try and encourage more of that. Yes. So how it started was for me last year, there was
for the first part trip, there was just a lot of empathy in the building for a lot of the kids who didn't think they were going to earn that trip. And so the more you would talk to kids about it, it was kind of like, well, I don't want to be here, I'm not going. And so High Five Friday started as an idea that I wanted to just every Friday, the moment you walk in the building, give you something to celebrate, give you a reason to smile, to like just set you up for the day so that no matter what was happening with your going at which park or not, you at least had a moment to be celebrated with a pat on the back. And it's now grown, right, on the days where I'm not at the front door or the big red hands, but we've got these big red hands. So when you walk in and you see the big red hands, you just know. And so what happened was, is how I knew it was working is it's set to do it every Friday. In some weeks, we don't have school on Thursday and Friday. Wednesday is the last day. So the kids are walking in the door on a Wednesday, the last day of the week, and I look around like, hey, where's the red hand? And so it's grown now where there's more teachers involved in the process, right? I'll share with you, in the phone units rolled out in our mail boxes, right? And I wanted to see how fast can we get all of these hands out of the mailboxes? When will the adults come to pick them up? They just go around for a while, right? So you start to see them go away. But listen, they're just two left. And I watched those two relay until they went away. Right? And one of the teachers who left in the longest, she got a chance to come up and just watch what was going on at the front door. And she's kind of not really on board with it. She saw the joy in our building, right? And just how it throughout our hallways, she got bored. And so now, even though she's not wearing the phone hands, she's somewhere near the common on High Five Fridays. The smiles are big, the joy is loud. And there's just a lot more engagement around the activity.
So Mr. Marcus was just talking about prevention, what we do for all of our students. So we're calling those universal supports. I'm going to go into some of the details because there's so much that we could share with you about additional supports and intensified supports and what they look like at Gordon Russell. So first, I'm going to talk about our additional support team. So this would be for some students who need extra. We also have some grade level team meetings that are happening, and teachers are giving up their own time to meet and collaborate and talk about students and what their needs are. So that's another additional support that's happening in our building, but we're going to talk about the additional support team right now. So the goal of that team is to identify and monitor timely data-informed interventions for small groups of students. So one way that I think about the difference between additional and intensified support is that for additional support, we're looking for groups of kids. And for intensified support, we're looking at individual students. Our goal on this team primarily is to use data to make data-informed decisions. So we're primarily using Panorama, Synergy, and Swiss to guide our conversations. And in most of our meetings, we ask two questions. What are the current needs in our building? And what wide net can we cast to a specified group of students in order to meet that need? Another goal that we have, and I feel like we've all kind of talked about this in different ways, is to improve the flow of communication, because so frequently things are happening with students that other people don't know about. And so we're trying really, really hard to communicate with the entire school what's happening on this team. We have a post-meeting summary that's in our T-Bird memo, which is our weekly newsletter. So people see 2 times a month what the additional support team is talking about. And then we're also using Panorama. So anybody who has a student can look at their Panorama page and see all of the interventions that are happening for that student. So that's another way that teachers can see what's happening. I just want to talk about a few of our different additional support interventions. So for academics, we have a SMART Goals group for our emerging multilingual learners. So they are working one-on-one or in small groups with a teacher, and they are creating SMART goals, and she is holding them accountable and bringing them back to work with her, and then she releases them once they have seasoned all of their classes. We also recognize the need for our newcomers. We had several come to us in December, and so we decided that they needed a support group. They could meet with each other and kind of get to know what the building is like and some informed for adults. our Sun Homework Club outreach and promotion. That is also something where we're targeting a small group of students and then inviting them to participate in the homework. In terms of attendance, we have school to home attendance updates that happen for students that drop from 100% attendance to 90%. So the idea there is early intervention. And then we also have attendance contracts with the 2x10 check-in, which means that for 10 days, our attendance liaison checks in with the student for 2 minutes or more about anything that interests them. It's not necessarily about academics. And then they also get incentives for their attendance. And that's mostly for students who are between 80 and 90% attendance. And then in terms of behavior and social emotional learning, we do prevention interviews, which are like empathy interviews. Michelle talked a little bit about our tier 2 check-in, check-out system. We have students who carry around a piece of paper and then they're assessed by their teachers every period, whether they were safe, respectful, and responsible, which are our school guidelines. And that leads to some really awesome conversations between teachers and students. And then at the end of the day, they check out with a preferred adult who gives them an incentive based on how many points they earned. Mr. Marcus is leading a critical behavior if then group where students are really focused on I would say like the consequences of their decision making, right? If I do this, then this will happen. We had a critical behavior vaping education group. We had 5 students who were really struggling to make good choices and healthy choices at school. And one of the teachers who we have a release period for is actually a health teacher. And so she was able to bring in curriculum for her health class and then work with these 5 students. I recently provided something really awesome that's going to help with this also. And when we do restorative circles, this is an expertise from Mr. Marcus. If we have a classroom where it feels like things are starting to fall apart, Mr. Marcus will facilitate a restorative circle and they can come together to reestablish norms and agreements. We have several next steps with this. We have a lot of academic interventions that are happening at the classroom level, but they're not being documented. So one thing that we would love, especially as an additional support team, is to know more about the interventions that are happening in the classrooms. Specifically, we would love to see more academic interventions for our emerging multilingual learners and our students who are SPED identified. And then we want to engage our counselors in facilitation and progress monitoring of small groups. That's something that we want to see all 3 of our counselors doing with consistency and fidelity, and then documenting it in Panorama. Okay, so I'm going to go into intensified support. So this would be just for a handful of students who have accessed universal supports, they have accessed additional supports, and they're communicating to us that they need something more or different. In these meetings, and again, we're talking about the intensified support team. We also have a SPED ops team and a tier 3 team, which are doing similar work. And oftentimes we're communicating amongst these 3 teams in order to serve kids. But for our intensified support team, what we're doing there is we're centering support for the individual student, family, and their teachers. And we're engaging in intentional kid talk to identify some strengths-based interventions that will work for that kid. We are constantly trying to figure out who we should be talking about in these meetings because there are so many kids who we want to be talking about. And so one of the things that we've been playing with for the last couple of months is bringing students who we are stuck. Like we just don't know what to do next. And the thing that's really great about this team is that we have Mr. Marcus, who's the student management specialist. We have our attendance liaison. We have our Spanish speaking liaison. We have our attendance secretary. We have all of our counselors. People who know our kids and what's happening with them are in that space. So oftentimes it's just about talking with each other about what we know and sharing information and then coming up with a next step. Our goal there, again, is to utilize data from team meetings and then from our different data sources to guide our conversations and select interventions. And we're also trying to increase that flow of communication. So for these meetings, we're having our counselors send out an email to their grade level teams that talk about the students who we discussed. Just use initials, so it's still confidential, and we just say, hey, will you check Panorama for a new intervention for the student? Or you might be seeing a check and check out for the student that's coming your way. So just little updates. So in terms of some of the interventions that we talk about in this space, we talk a lot about academics. So we have reading and math intervention classes that are for a trimester. So we can have a student go into one of those math or reading intervention classes. And then this year we practiced and kind of played with an intervention elective wheel for our sixth graders. So the idea behind this is that they were getting intensified academic support, but they didn't know about it. But it was kind of masked in like data science and STEAM, but the teachers were doing a little bit extra for those kids. So the thing that was really nice is we didn't feel like they were losing their life. And I feel like we can continue to refine this and make it something really for attendance, attendance contracts again, and we also have home visits and resource referrals. It's often our attendance liaison who's getting to the root cause of what's going on with our families and what's making it so that the students are not attending school. And so oftentimes that will lead to a resource referral. Behavior and social emotional learning, we have a tier 3 check-in check-out, which is where the goals are specific to the student. So right now I have a student on a tier 3 check-in check-out whose goal is to just stay in class for the entire period, and he gets points for that because that's where we are right now. And it wouldn't make sense to assess him on being safe, being responsible, and being respectful because he's just not quite there yet. But he will graduate from that tier 3 check-in check-out to the next check-in check-out when he's ready. Some other inventions that we have, breaks are better. With this idea that if students are leaving class a lot, we need to figure out what a replacement behavior could be. So we'll say to kids, you get a break at this particular time. And again, the idea is to keep them structured in their day. We will take passing time away from students if they're not using it in a way that is safe and healthy. IEP and 504 consultation is often a part of this. We're doing behavior implementation and all sorts of things here, safety plans, mental health referrals, NAR referrals, tier 3 referrals, if we think maybe the student benefit from special education services. We've just got kind of a lot of different places where we can go for this team. But in terms of our next steps, we need to expand our options even more because we still have some students who we are not serving equitably in our building. So I think especially for our students who are emerging multilingual learners or SPED identified, or the students who are right at the intersection of both of those, where language is a barrier, and then we're also dealing with disability, we still need help in figuring out how to reach some of those kids. And then we also want to implement some sort of EML ops. We have that for SPED, but I think it would be really beneficial for us to be having those same robust conversations about our emerging multilingual learners. And I think that sometimes we feel like that doesn't make sense because we have one teacher, but I still think that there could be lots of people who could come to that table.
All right. So I think we said panorama at least 10 times during this conversation. And we put this slide up just also as an appreciation to the school district for continuing to purchase this data platform because it really is the vehicle for our sole vehicle for all the communication so that each team, as we go and talk about students and implement interventions, every adult that is connected to that student has access to see that information. And it just makes a huge difference in making sure that we are communicating everything that we're doing to be able to support students. And then just ending on a highlight, a growth point from last year to this year. TFI, which Michelle talked about, is the tiered fidelity inventory. It's basically a 0 to 2 scale, and there are 28 different categories that you go through and assess. So when we did it last year to this year, of those 28 categories, we increased in 13 of them, which was a huge celebration. Went from 9 categories that had a 0 to down to 2 categories that have a 0. So we're really working hard to move the dial. Russell, and then the biggest bright spot that we have that went from a 0 all the way to a 2. So we have to celebrate the big moves is that we are within this I was just talking about multi-tiered systems of support within tier 2, making sure that we have interventions that have documented evidence that really match the students' needs. So trying to figure out what is the function of that behavior and can we meet that need more effectively. The other area principle. Here we go.
Claus, is there any questions you have for Gordon Russell before we switch?
My questions are not specifically to the school, they're about the system as a whole, so you want me to wait? Okay.
Just, you talked about the, I think I heard one of the goals is to expand just the information coming out of the classroom, what interventions are applied to the classroom. What is this can you just kind of summarize what a staff load is for inputting that information? Or what would a typical kind of intervention or report look like?
I want to make sure I'm understanding the question. It's the question, how are we ensuring staff know how to, and like how much time would it take to be able to implement it?
I think so. What is the staff experience from a kind of a more of a standard classroom teacher? Is an intervention of some kind and now is reporting it. What would that process look like? When would they do that? That kind of question.
Well, that's a great question. We are able to attend the grade level team meetings, so like they were just talking about the grade level 6th, 7th, and 8th, they meet and talk about students. And within those meetings, they are able to, we call center a student. So a teacher is able to put a student on the list and we're able to talk through what are the things happening in your classroom. We are able to capture that in Panorama during those meetings. So we help the teachers with those pieces as we're talking about the students. We've spent a few different PDs both last year and thinking about how to coach staff, coach teachers to implement those themselves. It really is a quick process, and I would definitely say that is one of Marcus's biggest strengths is being able to navigate Panorama, but then also encourage others to be able to use it. So it's a little bit of, we've taught you how, hoping it happens, but we will also make sure when we're talking about students that we implement whatever we hear teachers are doing. Great question.
You mentioned Panorama, Synergy, familiar with those. What was Swiss?
SWIS, it stands for School-Wide Information System. It's, let's see, what's the easiest way to describe SWIS?
Visualization of behavior data that allows you to do some analysis in a way that Synergy and some others don't do as much.
I don't know if you heard Michelle. So Synergy feeds both Panorama and Swiss. So all information systems, all information comes out in Synergy. Swiss is a platform that allows for visual representations of different ways to look at data and report results. So you can sort by time of day, location, functional behavior, consequence, those types of things. So it's a visual way to look at data.
Just real quick, Carla, you want to explain how that feeds? Because I saw you up there too. Okay.
Talk to each other. Synergy and Swiss talk to each other.
I think the director will switch.
Comment, 2 questions. You guys, I see the smiles on your faces when you're doing this, and you absolutely love it. And it looks like a great program. But Mr. Marcus, what time is High Five Friday?
Every Friday.
That's fine. 8:40, the door's open. So can I meet you at 8:40?
I would love that. Yes, this Friday I'll be there. Yeah.
If I get permission from my Thunderbird, I'll join you there. But after that,
They're all lefties because that's all we could find. So be prepared for that.
Okay, thank you so much, Glenn Russell team. It's a tough act to follow, a team that is just so strong and has so much going on. But I'm really excited to share a little bit about Hollydale's story and implementing MTSS. I'm really going to be speaking a lot about the SEL, the behavioral intervention pieces that we're putting in place at Hollydale. And hopefully I smile too. I'm getting tired, but I am very proud, very, very proud of the work that we've done at Hollydale. So I joined the team. This is my 3rd year at Hollydale. And when I joined the team in 22-23, PBIS was already getting started at the school. There were monthly meetings where teams were looking at school-wide data. So a lot of that work was already getting started. And what we have been learning over the last couple of years is just like Gordon Russell shared, the more we can strengthen our tier 1, our initial teaching, the better students are at succeeding throughout the day. So we really started a couple of years ago establishing exactly what we want that tier 1 instruction and support to look like in the classroom. So where PBIS will recommend that you teach and reteach expectations in the common areas of the school 3 times a year, we extended that into the classroom. So what do we expect teachers to do at those points in the year and throughout the year to really strengthen the systems in their classroom. So we spent a lot of time doing that a couple of years ago in 22-23. Let's see. Last year, we were able to do a lot of work to start adding that layer of tier 2. Every school is putting in place tier 2 and tier 3 supports because students arrive and show you that they need tier 2 and tier 3 supports. We did a lot of work last year to figure out how to systemically meet those needs. So that came with adjusting our school-wide schedule so that we would have grade level chunks of time where students could receive additional support with skills like keeping their hands to themselves. So we had hands-off academy where kids got to practice scenarios where they might need to keep their hands to themselves. And those groups are put together from our tier 2 SEL meetings that happen every 4 to 6 weeks. So instead of it being a different team that is meeting at this time every 4 to 6 weeks, grade level teams meet alongside the counselor or past teacher, myself, behavior TOSA. I was a behavior TOSA at the time, but to look at our data, and we have a pretty robust data collection that we do at our school that I'll talk about here in a few minutes as well. This year, we're continuing those meetings, but where last year we did a lot of coaching with teams on how to run those meetings and how to review their tier 1 supports to ensure those were strong. We did a lot of hand over hand last year with running those meetings. And this year we're having those meetings simultaneously. So all teams are meeting at the same time in the same space with access to all of those additional people for support. They're running the show, which is just really something that we're really proud of because that means that they're understanding the ways in which we look at data and interventions that we can pull from to support students. I'm waiting for someone to click it, but that person is me. An image. Okay. It's all right. I think I'll do it. Thank you so much. So I spoke to some of these things already, but with our tier 1 development over the last few years, the team has met regularly to review data. We teach our common area expectations. Another huge piece of what we've gotten to do over the last few years is we've developed a Hollydale staff handbook that outlines all of the tier 1 supports and things that we do at Hollydale, including the teaching of expectations in the common areas and in the classroom, what classroom supports are available, class assignments and schedules and activities, traditions, skills of the month, assemblies. It's a wonderful tool that we have developed and we just keep adding to it every year. And along with tier 1, another piece that is also in our handbook is a team of people. I'm so lucky to work with such an amazing staff who sees something that is needed and knows how and has the skills to kind of come together and the relationships to come together to see a need and meet it. Phenomenal team at Hollydale. But some of our folks notice, well, we have all of these skills that we want students to learn. We have our SEL curriculum that we're using. We have other various things happening in our school. Let's come together and align all that. So if the skill that we're promoting for the month is courage, we are going to talk about courage with our buddy class. We are going to talk about courage in our classroom. We're going to celebrate that at our assembly. We're going to pull from our SEL adoption, well, our SEL toolkit that we're using right now to see what we can pull from there that can also be about courage. And we also share a whole lot of read alouds with teachers that they can read with students. So just seeing that strengthened this year has been something I'm really proud of, just because that came like grassroots, people seeing a need and saying, we'll do it. Our PBIS team has also decided to create a SMART goal that is connected with student experience surveys. That's something that started last year and is also continuing this year. For tier 2, I touched on these pieces as well. We have those regular tier 2 meetings. And the data that we look at we look at the behavior incident forms, previously called referrals. We look at our check and check out data. We have our tier 3 data tracker, our plan for success. It's the tier 3 version of check and check out, where we're focusing on one very specific goal or a couple of very specific goals. And then we do track something that we do every day is any call for support or any chatter over the radio, we log into like a, call it our Zenden response log. And we use that data as well because we can shuffle and manipulate that to see like the student's name is coming up a lot. It's coming up a lot around lunchtime. Let's talk with the staff out there to see what's going on. So that, all of that these pieces are helping in our tier 2 appeal meeting. Those meetings also requires that teachers look at what we ask them to do at tier 1, and they actually kind of give themselves every 6 weeks. They look at the list of things we're asking them to do, and they kind of rate their implementation. Because what we know is if we're seeing a lot of incidents happen, and we're seeing a lot of students struggling, we might need to touch back tier 1 for supports and strengthen that a bit. So it's an opportunity for them to look back at that each time we meet as well. Assign tier 2 interventions during those meetings and determine how we're going to track the data or the implementation of that. And our Zenden team supports staff with the communication and implementation of those tier 2 interventions. Another development that we have this year, I'm just calling it the temp check team, where this is kind of something that is another piece that's rolling out slowly, but we have seen a need to discuss more live student data is what I'm calling it. This is a group of myself, counselor, a resource teacher, and our behaviors TOSA, and we look at that Zenden log and we look at incidents that are coming through weekly, and it's just a quick who's popping up right now, and we will often discuss, like we'll assign people to check in with the teacher. It makes sense to check in with this teacher to see what they might, what's their communication been like with families, or have they had a lot of communication with families and it's time for a larger team to come together to work with the family, or do we need to meet with the student one-on-one and see what's going on? What can we do to support you? So that's something new that we've added this year. We've talked about this tiered fidelity inventory, and this is a different way. Russell talked about indicators, that the amount of indicators that have improved. This is our graph that shows our implementation over time. So see, over the course of the years, we have increased our implementation overall. And I just wanted to highlight too that when you take this survey, it's lengthy. It's a lot of information. And from year to year, if you have different members that are on your team, you might see dips in your implementation data based on people's knowledge of the tool, all of the information that's in it. So I actually felt really excited to see not much shift between the last 2 years, because I know that about half the team has shifted in those couple of years. So that shows us that a lot of people know what's going on at Holiday. This is a little bit of Swiss data for you. So this is our average referrals per day, per month, over the last few years. And when I was looking at data to share with you with Michelle, who was kind of like, well, you could show this, you could show this. I popped this up and they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to share this, because you see a very large purple bar in October. And as I was thinking about the information in this data set, I was thinking about, actually, I'm really proud to see this, because what you can see is that in October this year, things were hard. Really, really hard. Still hard, but they were very hard at that point, and that's very accurate. And you see where that purple bar is of November, December. I think that goes to show you that our tier one, the way that we shifted systems, the way that we shifted supports, supported our students, and we're seeing a decrease in data since that time. So I'm really proud of that data, actually. That is how it goes sometimes. We've talked a lot about tides this year and the tide coming in, the tide going out, and whatever one is happening, it feels like the tide's coming in at times and we're not running away, we're building, we're redistributing as needed. So lastly, I wanted to just share with you some of the areas of focus for us this year. Really doing a lot of work around the discipline handbook and making sure that staff understand some of the changes and how it relates with the work that we're already doing at Hollydale. And we are working to develop the capacity for tier one and tier two intervention among our staff as well. That huge bar in October, people didn't really love hearing we have to shift and do more in the classroom to support students. We need to put more in place for tier one support. We did, and we're seeing positive outcome from that. We're working to strengthen our tier one SEL connection to PBIS through creating that consistency like where I was talking about. If the topic is courage, we're kind of aligning all things. And then like Michelle spoke about at the beginning of our presentation, sometimes we go through phases of really wanting to increase articulation around our processes and supports and interventions and all those things. We're going to always have that be a goal because it's something that we always work on. So thank you so much.
Questions? Yeah, questions for Erin. Any questions overall?
I'm wondering if when you're looking at your data, you're also looking at subgroups because I hear a lot this culturally responsive and I didn't hear the cultural responsiveness. Yeah. And with the outcomes. So I'd like to hear more about that next time. I love that you're doing home visits. I'd like to see whose homes you're visiting and what are the outcomes of that. What are the kids' needs and what supports can the district provide so that you can continue meeting the kids' needs. The people who are making up your MTSS teams, who is making sure that the empathy interviews are culturally sensitive and culturally responsive to students. I also loved hearing that the panorama reports are being shared out with everyone because sometimes that stuff for some reason needs to be kept confidential and teachers don't even know what's going on with their kids. So I love that you guys are sharing that. Are those also going home to families? Do they know what interventions are working for their kids at school so that they can provide you support at home? And some of the challenges that you're facing. So maybe this one's for John or for Michelle. I don't know for who. Like, are you guys your successes? Are you having the opportunity to share your successes with other schools so that they can learn from you, but also sharing your challenges so that you know what not to do because it might not work, right? So instead of every school reinventing the wheel and having, because all we've heard this year is about behavior challenges at schools, and we are not the only district. Are we learning from each other? Are you being given the opportunity to share your successes with others so that they can learn from you? I'm wondering about that. Restorative circles. I love that you're doing restorative circles at your schools. Are those being done in other schools, like at our high schools? Who else is trained besides you in facilitating those? And should we have more training so that other people know how to do it, especially at the secondary level? So I love the work that you're doing. I'm just wondering if it's spread around and if you're looking at subgroups so that we know that it really is culturally responsive.
I can speak to that data piece. Yes, we are. At Hollydale, we have the goal that I talked about PBIS having a SMART goal, and the SMART goal that we've had for the last couple of years is that 100% of our Black students feel a sense of belonging at Hollydale. And so we were already looking at that disaggregated data at that point anyway, but we wanted to have a goal to keep that alignment, that movement forward. But we do look at a few different reports. We'll look at reports that show if our students are a subgroup, if they are the rate of referrals they're generating to make sure there aren't any disparities there. There's a wonderful report in Swiss where we just hit equity report. There are a few different visuals that pop up for that.
What I got before that, I heard, I heard from us talk about wanting more interventions and multilingual learners. What are the universal supports that you have?
I would say in general, everything that we are doing this year is targeting our emerging multilingual learners. And we're targeted for school improvement because of that particular population. You know, partially to answer your question about disaggregated data, yes, we are doing that, and it makes people really uncomfortable. So I just kind of want to own that in this space, that oftentimes looking at that data, especially when it's your data as a classroom teacher for your kids who you're serving, and for us right now, we know that we're not serving our EMLs equitably, right? So that data is uncomfortable. I'm thinking of just today, we presented at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. today. We had our EML coach come in and present with us, and we did something that was specifically for our EMLs. It was a really awesome strategy called Stronger and Clearer. And that is a universal support that we expect that all teachers are going to apply in their classroom spaces. We had several teachers who came up to us today and so that they were able to find a way to fit that into their classroom spaces. So, you know, all of our PD is generated toward what are the best practices in terms of instruction. What we know about instruction is that if we're not rigorous, we're wasting a lot of potential. And if we're not supportive, we're cruel to our kids. And so what we need to do is find that balance between rigor and support in order to meet our students' needs. And that's our focus with instruction. Answer all your questions? No, we got one more. Oh, I should make sure we answer all the highlights.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
Great questions. And then
Just really quickly, I was going to say thanks for being transparent and sharing the information that maybe at first seemed uncomfortable, but it's important for us to see the real, because we do hear it from staff and from students. And so when reports show that everything's going well, we're not really getting a clear picture. So appreciate you doing that.
Actually, anytime I can talk about what I'm talking, I'm going to take it my own. Sorry, John. Got to. You got it. Excited just for you. One of the pieces that I really value as a principal is that we have an opportunity to meet as secondary principals. And there's an opportunity for high school principals to meet, and then we blend middle school and high school together, and we have a middle school opportunity. And there are multiple opportunities over the course of the year where we actually sit and talk about our MTSS system. So it looks like in your building, how's it working? What are you doing? What are you not doing? What have you tried that didn't work? What have you tried that did work? And I found so much value in the PLC that is my principal PLC, my the other four middle school principals, and the opportunities to be able to hear what they're doing and being able to share systems that we built and structures that we built so that we're not recreating a wheel, but being able to tweak it for our own school community just pays dividends for all of us to do it.
I'll add to that answer for you, Mr. Gomez, as well. The also many of our principals create their own time as well. There's only so much time in the day, so they meet separately. The middle school group concerns me when they meet together. On the other hand, it's always productive time, and they really are focused on improvement, so they do it pretty regularly.
Michelle has organized a couple opportunities too for us to have little steering committees for different grade levels. So we had elementary first and then moved into middle school last year. So both Marcus and I participated, and we were able to collaborate with other middle schools.
Okay, is that it? Okay. Thank you. There's a lot of stuff on here. I keep going back to some of the data. I'm looking at, I'm thinking, that one, that one. I'm going to do the hand and that one, that one. You said that because I know as I was going through this and what was showing up there wasn't matching. So when will those be? So, well, that's soon because I have to look at them tomorrow. Okay, all right. Okay, but that'll be updated. So any other questions from the board? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And looking forward to visiting with students and seeing it in action. So, okay, good. All right. To do. It's just meeting minutes from our policy review committee and a couple of things that we have worked on. Obviously, there was some combination of some of the policies around the student. Let's see, state
some of that, the EBs, they were trying to consolidate and put some of them together, and we did have some questions with OSBA on that. We did look at some of the other policies around some fingerprinting and district property that we are going to defer. And most of it was pretty much good conversation and continuing on to do that. So I also wanted to mention that with Director Keithley not being on the board anymore, it is myself and Myra Gomez that are on that committee. We've had 2 in the past. I don't know that we need to have 3. We still are meeting. We've still got lots of policies that are going on. So that was that in a nutshell on the policy review committee. Those don't require adoption. They're just for information. We do have an action item, budget position. We have 2 returning and 1 new, and this has Dennis Clegg on it.
Sure, members of the board, in November at the business meeting, the board declared positions 1, 2, and 3 as vacant on the committee. We reached out to all of the members in those current positions, see if they were interested in returning, and John Hartsock for position 2, and Nick McWilliams for position 3 expressed interest, and we looked to point those back to the position. Former Vice Chair Keithley reached out to other applicants for the position 1, and Mr. Batten Green expressed interest in that. So we put those 3 candidates forward for appointment to the budget committee for the coming term.
I would move to accept the recommendation to reappoint John Hartsock, position 2, and Nick McWilliams, position 3, and appoint Baden Green. Is that correct? How do you say? Baden Green, position 1 on the Gresham-Barlow School District Budget Committee.
Okay, it's been moved by Blake, seconded by Sean to accept the recommendation to reappoint John Hartsock to position 2, Nick McWilliams, position 3, and appoint Baden Green, position 1 on the Gresham-Barlow School District Budget Committee. This is our first budget committee meeting.
Budget 101 meeting is March 19th, and the first actual budget committee meeting, I believe, is April 2nd. So that would be the time frame to have all the new members sworn in and move forward with them.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about the 3 that are being put forward?
I really enjoyed working with Nick and John the last several years, and look forward to working with them again. And now look forward to meeting Baden and working with him.
David?
Just want to say thank you for donating your time, because that's a big commitment, and we really appreciate it.
All right. There's no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Welcome aboard. Two action items that we added from the original from the meeting, and so we have 2 of them. One of them was the vice chair appointment, and this would be vice chair from tonight, June 30th. And nominations do not require a second. Make a nomination if the people that are nominated would like to say anything about it. And the nomination meeting that you have to approve for to vote on the person that's good. So just I nominate so and so.
I'll nominate Director Riegelman. Sure.
It's not a second, but okay then. Charlie, in your defense, this is it. You want to get out of this or not? You want to do this?
I will just say that I don't know that I'm qualified, but I will try it until June 30th.
June 30th falls on a Saturday. We can put June 29th. I haven't looked to see what the date is. Are there any other nominations for the vice chair?
I would just discussion. I would nominate any of my colleagues who are well qualified. Like legal one is just really provided a fresh perspective on the board. I've gone through changes the other, and I just think that, like, yeah, you're still going through. I just since 2018, I think one of us has been in board leadership, and we've got such dynamic additions to the board since then. Would be nice to see additional perspective.
To be for the nominations, and it does appear that Director Lieberman is willing to serve if elected. So with that, all those in favor of Director Lieberman as the vice chair, signify by saying aye. Aye. You should probably do that. Yeah. Any opposed? All right. So we'll be in touch. John will be in touch. Sarah will be in touch. Everybody will be in touch. Everybody will be in touch. The motion to appoint. I think we do. So you had them vote, but there wasn't a motion on the table. There was just a nomination. So you want me to
I would like to appoint Director Riegelman as chair.
I'm just going to ask for clarification, Sarah, because I thought before when we just voted that we always had a motion for it. No, there was a motion in July when we appoint new chairs and vice chairs. I'm just trying to remember I just remember we went through it a few times. So, yeah. All right. So Rick has made the motion. I second. And it's seconded by Myra. I think we can see who you were next to it. Myra, to appoint Holly Riegelman as vice chair. Motion and second. Okay. That, all those in favor? Opposed. Okay. Just because there's not a second to it's, person can just be nominated. So, okay. Be prepared. Yeah. Here. All right. We'll move on to this. And the other thing was we have a vacant position. And this is the Zone 2 position as a result of Director Keithley being successful in her candidacy for the city of Gresham. And so I was looking at some of the dates and things, and let's see. So we have the position is now vacant. Position is vacant until June 30th, as it stands on paper. Election cycle, it's kind of weird because it's special election for board members. The election cycle filing starts in, let's see. It's no, the filing actually starts February 10th. The deadline ends March 21st, and the election is actually May 20th. So that's sort of just underground, that's underlayer conversation. We still would be short a board member until July 1st. And I do feel like we should at least reach out. And I did a tentative. If we did a 10-day open starting from today, if we interviewed at our next work session on January 22nd, we could appoint at our February 5th. That would still give us. You wouldn't be able to interview on the 22nd because that one is already taken with superintendent. Okay. How many people do you think we're going to apply? 2 or 100, somewhere between that number. For the board, I have no idea. 2 to 100. Okay. Best everything up. You just have to do it all on February 5th. What's going on that day? As secretary, what's going on that day? Our business meeting. Okay. Still would like for us to make an attempt to see the interest level to fill. I don't like not having the position filled. It leads to potential quorum issues if we have 1 or 2 people that are gone. We don't have enough backup for that. So that's kind of where I'm thinking with that. So that's a lot of discussion before we had a motion. Sorry about that.
I have an alternative view. I think in the timeline, we're doing lots of interviews anyways. I'm in favor of leaving up. We didn't open it up or replace Amanda, which she resigned at the same time frame, maybe a month later. And so I'm in favor of just leaving it open and letting the public decide who fills that position as opposed to us for essentially 2 or 3 months, and then they have to run. And
it would be actually for 5 months.
because, yeah, whether or not they chose to run or not is a question. But it would be from, say, if we were able to do it on February 5th, it would be through June 30th, regardless of the election. Because they would be in the position.
Right.
Sure.
So the motion to declare it vacant, we don't. Position was already vacant. This action that's being proposed is in order to appoint. Okay. We've got an awesome candidates through appointment. I am also worried about the time that we can do that after.
Accepted we accepted her resignation. We declared it vacant after the meeting that she was, and that was effective December 31st. So we've already done that part. So the position is vacant. And yes, go ahead, Dave.
So if we do appoint someone, in order for them to stay after June 30th, they still have to run.
That's where some of those timing of the dates gets in. But if they don't, if they realize that this is not what they thought it was going to be, the pay was too low. Yeah. So. Any questions?
I guess I think we would have to appoint somebody prior to the cutoff to run deadline. We would potentially be appointing somebody who no longer had the option to run.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Because anyone whose term expires will be following and they'll still be sitting on the board.
We didn't.
On March 21st.
Deadline passed. So we would have to make sure that we appoint them by March 21st, because otherwise, we appoint them March 22nd. They are no longer eligible to hire. Even if they're a sitting even if they're a city board.
Right, if you're a city, right, and that applies to any sitting board. Yeah, that's correct.
We would have to make sure, if we choose to appoint, we should appoint before.
And let them know what the deadlines are. Because it's not an assumption that just because someone's appointed, that we would expect them, they may not want to run. That's kind of the question as well. But the deadline, you're right, would have to be by March 21st if we're going to run. Yeah, David.
Clarifying, is this position open? Yes. Okay. I mean, like.
No, it's zone 2.
Zone 2. So if we appoint someone, they have to be from zone 2.
Yes, and. So yes, and on that one. Yes, and this gets a little trickier. It must be from zone 2 to appoint. If no one applies from zone 2 after 60 days of the position being available, and Sarah will correct me if I'm wrong, I know she will. I read it, I looked it up. 60 days, we can appoint anyone from within the district. I might have gotten that from OSBA, I bring them. There's a 60-day window where if no one applied from that zone, then you could apply from anywhere in the district. But then to run, they would have to be in the zone. Yeah. Well, they'd have to be in the zone. Yeah. So I just get nervous about not having a quorum. That's all. That's just kind of we have a lot going on, and we have very busy board members, and we're getting into busy season, and I just worry about not making a quorum. So. So I move that you show the procedure to position. Position. How about that? Just leave it. Okay. So I put a second of my post the position. And we figure out the timeline. Basically, it's
Discussion. This opportunity because of the superintendent search and then budget. Step is study. So do we have time in our reports?
It's not 60 days. It has to really get in after it's been advertised. It was only for 20 days. Then they can go for district. I think I'm about to test you because that's what I read 60 some places. 20 days is all. Right. It's 20 days.
And I would look at some of us worrying about with our meetings with the superintendent and then budget. And we'll
I have the same reservation, like, it's expense. It's, I've been through a lot of 8 years, but a reasonable amount of appointments. We've gotten awesome candidates through it. I don't see the timeline with the other business. I think I'm of the position. I think we should just let voters decide it and make sure we have a quorum.
Well, it just means that people have to make sure that we have a quorum. If we do have very important things to do. We've got superintendent search, we've got budget stuff going on. We do need to make sure that we have a quorum because we're down a person. So that makes it even more important to make sure that we maintain a quorum. So, and reaching out to folks then to run for that position would be good. So, turn to that. In zone 2. So it's if you go on the Gresham-Barlow website and look at the map, but I know her kids went to West Gresham, so that's the area. Yeah, it's kind of a funny zone. It goes out towards out here, John. It goes out towards Persimmon area. Yeah. It's where Matt O'Connell group was zone 2 as well. Okay. So the motion on the floor is to open the position, to post the position. And it's moved by me, seconded by Myra. All those in favor? Posting the position, sorry. Yeah, sorry. It's 1:15 already. The motion was to post the position. Okay. So I was in favor of posting the position. Those opposed? Okay, so that means that we're tied. Okay, so let's try it again. See, so we need I need to remind so that we can do this now, or I can do this all night for chocolate, you know? We just keep on, I don't think we can, Sarah, can't not pass a motion, can we? Just keep doing it till it passes, or it fails. If there's a tie, it's a fail. All right, so tie is 3-3 then. See if Karen would. Can I test you any more tonight, Sarah? I don't know. I will try. All right, so motion failed, which means everybody is going to make a real firm commitment to make sure that we're here, except for Saturday. We better win down there. All right. Let's see a question.
So would it be possible to maybe email the board a link to that? So like, or I'm not sure where the zone is.
Yeah, I'll email it's not the most crisp map. But it does give kind of a general area, but I'll send it out. I thought they had one that when I've gone down there, because they make the point where I am. If they do, they have not shared with me. They have just reached out to me to ask for better. So, all right, okay.
Sure, you know the answer. If somebody's close to the border, then how do they verify it? Do they give an address and we verify it through, like we would for school placement? Or how do you know for sure?
How we done it, that they have to share their address and then I verify them.
So if somebody's,
If it's close, yeah, then we would have to go a little deeper. But usually they're within that boundaries, so it's easy to tell.
I just didn't know.
Yeah, they can, if they're not quite sure if they're in it, you want them to call you, Sarah, instead of the county, because the county's gonna just turn it right back to you anyhow. Okay,
All right, yeah, because it is kind of a weird, and yeah, it's a little bit odd. So, okay, we get down to the end almost. No, let's see. Let me look here. I've got too many notes. Action items on notes. And I know that, who's giving this? Sarah the boy, we still here, Sarah? Oh, I know. Well, normally it's Mr. Cook who gives this, but he's apparently just. And so Sarah's going to show you how it's done. Right. So we're getting the out-of-state travel report, and this is a real high-level report.
Yes, indeed. Hello again. This is a semi-annual report that just makes you aware of any out-of-state trips for students related to athletics and activities. So far this school year, we just have one of those, and it actually occurred in the summer. We have an 8th to 9th grade transition program that really supports our 8th graders coming into high school to get excited and engaged with it. And they took a field trip to Idaho, Washington. It was with partnership with Sun, so it's a tier 1 activity. It was no cost to the district. And that was our only state trip so far. I'm sure there'll be more in the second half. Okay. Any questions?
So do you come back in the second half, or is this like an annual report?
Semi-annual. We'll see. I'll be back.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Round over, Bono. Next up is a monthly financial update as of November 30th, 2024. Has Dennis Clegg on here? We do have the monthly financial report is in our board packet. Any highlights on this, Mr. Clegg, or any questions from the board? Well, as noted, we, for the fundamentals, we're still waiting for the completion of the 23-24 audit, which is longer than we anticipated, just due to the auditor unfamiliar. So it's going to go along with that by the end of this month. And then the report associated with the contract that was settled with the GBEA is in process, and we'll talk the numbers that I bring to you in March because they'll show up in the February, the January numbers. So that's all I have. Okay, Director Peterson.
Do you expect that retro pay to require a supplemental budget action by the board?
I do not. When we created the 24-25 budget, we anticipated enough of an increase to offset that. So I don't anticipate having to come with any additional requests. January 11th, 2025 is a special board work session, 8 a.m. It is on a Saturday here in the conference chambers, the council chambers conference room.
Check it out. I'm sorry. It's actually 7:30. I put it in the wrong. You want us there at 7:30 because the first interview starts at 8.
We'll try there again. Okay. All right. So Sean, you picked a good one in this. If we got to be there at 7:30, 7:30. All right. Okay. All right. So let's try that again. January 11th, 2025. It is a Saturday. Special board work session at 7:30 a.m. here in the council chambers conference room, the Public Safety and Schools building. January 22nd, 2025, we will be back at the Center for Advanced Learning, which is CAL, the partnership room. Regular board work session at 6 p.m. This is currently when it's scheduled. February 5th, 2025, the regular board business meeting back in this chamber, council chambers at 7 p.m. And I think there being no other business that I can make up, I think we are adjourned. Thank you.